KBLA Talk 1580. What? It's Friday. Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DePrima. The show is called First Things First, and my very first thing every day is prayer, giving thanks, giving praises, and asking for blessings from God, asking for the blessings of the ancestors and the elders. And let's go. Let's stir this pot. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to do. We call our Fridays Freedman Fridays because we focus on reparations for the second hour of the show every week. We've been doing it over 2 years, and today is no exception. In fact, I'm actually very excited today because our Freedman Friday guest is someone that we had on before, but I've never met him in person, and he has a lot to talk about, but a lot for you to participate in. And so looking forward to the conversation with Dr. Robert Turner. He'll be joining me live in studio. In hour 3, we'll also be talking with Marquise Alston Allison and Vanessa E. Williams, the actor. And they have an event that they are welcoming you into. But we're, of course, taking your phone calls all morning long at 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. Well, who is here on a Friday morning at 6? Sherry Bell is doing glamorous things, traveling and sleeping and things. And so we are so lucky to have with us in her stead an educator, climate justice activist, community organizer, and a lifelong resident of Harbor Gateway in the city of Los Angeles. Bryant Odega, good morning.
Good morning, Dominique, and good morning, KBLA 1580 family. Always a joy to be in conversation community with y'all.
Indeed. I should have mentioned that you're a member of UTLA and a teacher.
Yes.
And I see you're in full organizer mode today. He got the T-shirt, the button, the twinkle in his eye. It's a heavy lift this week for UTLA, no?
Yeah, this is definitely a time to ramp up the organizing. We at United Church Los Angeles, led by our incredible president, Cecily Maillard Cruz, we are in, as she would say, the fight for the future of public education here in Los Angeles. And, we have been, so UTLA represents over 38,000 members, teachers, counselors, school nurses, many more. And we've been bargaining with this district for about 13, 14 months now. And we have yet to have any real commitments to some of the core demands that we have, which is around fixing the salary table to retain and recruit educators, so that educators aren't leaving and our workforce is downsizing, that we're actually expanding and retaining educators, investing in special education so that we're able to address the needs of our most marginalized students, and fully funding our schools so our kids have the student support services that they need to have a positive and high quality education experience.
And you're one of those teachers. I mean, we always talk on other topics about how there's just not enough black men as teachers. You've been managing to endure. You've been there for a while now doing this. I think when we hear, everyone loves teachers, and it's almost like a truism or a talking point. Oh, teachers are underpaid. But LA teachers do better than teachers in a lot of other states. And 17% is the headline we're getting, that the teachers want 17%. That sounds like a big raise.
Yeah, so LA educators tend to make more than your average educator in the country. That's also because the cost of living is also higher in LA as well. At least
yes,
in the
it
city.
is. Insanely higher.
Right. One of the most expensive places to live. And, the raise that we're asking for, we're talking about, so right now in the current salary scale, right, your first year teacher can't afford to rent a one-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles. And so in order to get by, right, you have educators who are working, part-time jobs, doing Uber or doing other types of part-time things. You have educators who are, living in highly crowded households, right? The living conditions of the folks who care for our children. It's not just the classroom instruction, but we are also mentors. We also coach. We are there after school at the games. We're trying to work with parents, doing so much more to wrap around our kids to make sure that they are supported. But our educators themselves aren't, right? They're struggling, and that's why when you look at the state of teaching, the state of the profession today, by the 5th year of teaching, 1 in 3 teachers leave the profession. And
Don't
that's a
just,
crisis.
you're not just talking about leave the state, like leave the whole job, like
Altogether.
I'm going to go do something else type
And that's
thing.
a problem. These are folks who, to be a teacher, you have to go to college, you got to get a degree, you got to get a license, you have to go through a number of different trainings and programs. And the job itself, that we love to do, requires a lot of labor. And that labor has to be paid. We have a system that exploits educators' altruism, right? Because we care for our children, and so therefore they're willing, and so we're even willing to do this job, right? Already, even in the midst of the current, underpay. But altruism can only take you so far, right? We are in a crisis of affordability, right? Folks can't afford to. People are leaving the city, right? And we're talking about BIPOC representation in the workforce. One of the major reasons why we don't have a lot of Black teachers or brown educators is because the pay is too low. Why be a teacher when you can be, a lawyer, right? That's what I was considering doing. And I tried so hard to want to be a lawyer, but the school, the classroom just drew me stronger. And I think, in a moral society, educators should actually be a middle class, profession.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be a middle class profession. But I'm just, I know we've had this conversation before because
Yes.
you always are kind enough to talk about what's going on with the teachers here. And we are looking at a strike of possibly 3 different unions
Yeah.
on Tuesday. So we'll get a little bit more into that. But to the average person struggling, with affordability right now, it sounds like teachers make more than most of the parents of the kids they're teaching. You know what I mean? And more than, even though that's maybe a bad comparison, because those people have all the same issues that you talked about with affordability in the city. But when teachers walk, everybody walks, pretty much, except for people that don't have any, kind of moral compass. I mean,
Right.
when teachers walk, everybody walks. I saw a list of a bunch of different unions that are talking about standing in solidarity and walking with the 3 core unions that may be striking. So we're pretty much talking about shutting down the city.
Yeah.
And as a parent, I know that, I definitely would put myself in the middle class. And even for me, childcare was really a problem. And so you're talking about asking parents, many of whom make considerably less than the teachers and have considerably fewer benefits, to walk out, stand in solidarity, and struggle with childcare, figure out what to do with our kids. So tell us why is it worth it? I mean, it sounds like, oh, they just want a lot of money, 17%. Wow, I wish I could get that raise. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So to be clear, so I think, most parents, right, want educators, the people who are serving their kids to have, housing stability. And really the onus of this battle is on the district. It is the district which currently sitting on $5.03 billion. That's billion with the big B. And we have one of the largest reserves in California. There are smaller school districts that have smaller reserves on their budget, meaning our district is hoarding public taxpayer dollars. And these are public taxpayer dollars, right? These are money that's supposed to be spent to invest in our schools, right? Our superintendent has been operating as if the school district is a bank, right? Concerned around their credit score, withholding wealth, investing over these past couple of years, promising $10 billion in private subcontracting, including that ad chatbot that no one really asked for, but he tried to he tried to bring over here. And so we have a district that has, it's really the district that has that needs to reassess its priorities. Instead of investing billions of dollars in private contracting, let's instead invest those dollars into public education, into our workers, not just teachers and counselors, but also our bus drivers, our cafeteria food workers, the folks who keep our system all together. And I think that's why you have not just UTLA, but also SIU Local 99 and a union representing the administrators. Right, I think this is the first time they may be going on solidarity strike with us. So all three, some of the largest unions in the school district are together on this because we recognize that, this district has the money, right? It's not us, right? We're the workers. We don't have direct, control over, the budget. Right, the superintendent has more power than the individual teacher. That's why we have unions to apply that pressure. That if they're not willing to meet us where we're at, right, and they haven't been over these last 13, 14 months, then we have to take it to another level, which is withholding our labor, which is our right, on April 14th.
Which is Tuesday, yeah.
However long necessary.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that when we come forward. If you have questions or comments or just want to get in the conversation, 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580, UTLA, SEIU 99, and the administrators. Those are the three. We got at least three that are actually looking for new contracts and have some demands. But then there are others that will stand in solidarity, even though they are not in contract negotiations, only to back up these other folks that are more than likely going on strike on Tuesday. Let's know what's going on. Let's be ready. That's why we're here. KBLA Talk 1580.
Thanks for starting your morning off with a voice that speaks truth to power and the powerless, getting to the heart of what matters most in our community. This is where authentic conversation meets real action. From breaking news and politics to culture and community solutions. This is where you hear perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. This is where we come together, get informed, and make change happen. You're inside First Things First with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Good morning, sunshine. You make my day.
My son loves to fly kites, but my active psoriatic arthritis can sometimes hold me back. Now with Skyrizi to treat my skin and joints, I'm ready to go. Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults, helps with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. For those who also have plaque psoriasis, 90% clearer skin is possible with just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, there's nothing like clearer skin and better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi today and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
The joint will be jumping. Ebony Repertory Theater, in association with Fig Street Films, brings you one of the most beloved musicals of all time. Tony Award winner, Ain't Misbehavin'. The soulful, swinging celebration of the music of Fats Waller. From the rollicking to the romantic, this show is pure magic, full of the songs that defined an era and the voices that'll make you forget everything else for a night. Foot-stomping, heart-stirring, unforgettable. Don't miss Ain't Misbehavin' at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center, starring Lettucey, directed by Ren T. Brown. This is the night out you've been waiting for. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Grab yours now at ebonyrep.org or call the box office today at 323-964-9766. Ebony Repertory Theater, bringing the culture, keeping the legacy alive.
Ain't Misbehavin' runs May 21st through June 8th at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Get your tickets now.
When the story gets twisted, who's going to tell the truth? When they cut the microphones, who's still talking? When history gets rewritten, who remembers what really happened? We do. KBLA Talk 1580. Black media isn't just important right now, it's essential. Because when mainstream outlets move on, we stay. When the headlines ignore our communities, we don't. When decisions are being made that affect black lives in our schools, our neighborhoods, our economy, KBLA is in the room. This is more than radio. This is a lifeline, a record, a rallying cry. Black stories, black voices, black power.
The heat is on.
On the air and in the culture. KBLA Talk 1580. Stay connected, stay informed, stay loud.
Stand up.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DePrima right now.
Right now we're back to me, but we're also back to Bryant Odega. And yeah, I know there's a lot going on in the world. But one of the things, if you're here in Los Angeles, that you've got to be tracking, and if you're not, it's about to be tracking you, is the teachers, and it's not just teachers and school workers strike that is kind of impending. I mean, unless some kind of last-minute deal is reached, it's going to happen on Tuesday, right?
Yeah, so I believe there's, I think yesterday or 2 days, this week, there was a bargaining session where it seemed like the district for the first time in 13, 14 months have started to actually bargain.
You mean like bargain in good faith?
Right, in good faith.
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
That's definitely in direct response to the fact that they know that we are ready and serious about going on strike. And, this is a last resort, right? We could have probably gone on strike, to be honest, in March or February, the way the district has been not bargaining in good faith. But here we are in April. And if we don't get an agreement on Saturday, then we're up on Tuesday. And this Saturday, we're also having a citywide chapter, meeting where members, chapter chairs from different school sites, are, stewards of their school sites are coming to collect their materials to be strike ready. And so we are prepared. We're organized. We're organizing. And if the district isn't willing to meet us where we're at, even though the district is sitting on $5.03 billion and has promised, over $10 billion to private contractors, then on Tuesday, we're going to have to withhold our labor, right? So the UTLA, SAE Local 99, the administrators, and we have a lot of other unions like the Teamsters, right? So they're not going to cross the picket line. And many other unions, standing in solidarity with us. And, also our parents and kids too. We organized with parents. And I think, because you mentioned, potential tension between parents and educators. And,
I don't know if I'd call it tension.
Okay.
This is my own observation. My observation, and I've said this over the years, is that the teachers are paid way better than most of those parents. The teachers have benefits that most of those parents, when we're talking about Black and Latino schools, could never even dream of, right? Mm-hmm. For the most part, that's what it is. So the teachers are asking the low-resource parents and students to stand with them. And I'm just asking you to make a strong argument why, because this is a huge sacrifice for these children and for these parents. And I do think teachers should be paid more, but you know who else needs to be paid more? The parents of those kids. Not that that's the responsibility of UTLA. And that's why I mentioned the Black Student Achievement Program, because to me, this is something I've never seen before, which is the teachers union going out of their way, your way, mm-hmm. to do something that would, we always say, oh, well, smaller classrooms is better for the kids and more teachers' aides better for the kids. Yeah, true. But the kids are still going back to low resource houses, mm-hmm. and stressed out parents. So the BSAP, has a direct advocacy piece for Black students, and it probably would have perished by now if not for the support of the United Teachers of LA.
Yeah, so educators stands with our parents, stands with our students, right? The Black Student Achievement Plan is the outcome of student-led leadership by Students Deserve, which is a Black youth-led organization that's been organizing around BSAP, among other issues, getting police off campus, defunding school police, investing in those programs, right, to invest in care, not cops. And we also stand with parents, right? We organize with Reclaim Our Schools, LA, and so BSAP with Students Deserve, we were also able to secure funding for Dream Centers. I'm part of the California Teachers Association State Council, and I'll talk to members from different parts of California who I know have immigrant students, right? But they don't, they've never even heard of a Dream Center before. But at UTLA, we're organizing with students, with parents, in getting Dream Centers so we can provide resources for our immigrant youth, but also their families too. We're organizing around getting resources for LGBTQ plus students and workers as well. And so, I think one of the things why I'm proud to be a member of UTLA is that not only do we bargain for wages and benefits which are necessary in order for this job to be sustainable, we also bargain for the common good because we recognize that the issues that impact our kids outside of the classroom also impact them at the classroom too. And outside of education, UTLA is also part of a lot of coalition spaces, including with LARSO, where we, along with other orgs like ACE and other groups, were able to secure some of the biggest rent stabilization reforms in decades. And so teachers standing with parents to lower the rents are one of the things that we say is lower the rents, raise their wages. And so UTLA has been actually at the forefront of many of these social justice movements, of defunding police and investing in community, of, raising down, lowering down, and stabilizing rents, and organizing to increase wages for not just educators, but also all workers, because all workers deserve to be paid, to be paid with a dignified wage and to live in dignity.
Yeah, well,
as well.
I don't know that I've ever seen that where a union, in this case, the United Teachers of Los Angeles, put in their contract something that really directly benefits the kids. The BSAP, for example, I don't know about the Dream Centers. It doesn't increase teachers' wages. It doesn't give teachers a direct benefit. It's to help Black students.
Yeah,
but that's in your contract.
Yeah, and so and it creates jobs as well. We talk about these are jobs that many of our parents, right, would have easier access to accessing if they wanted to work at the school site. And BSAP, is a model program for the country. In Chicago, I know they have a similar program, the Black Student Success Program, which is under attack right now by this president, the guy in the White House. But even in the midst of, schools and universities and colleges rolling back equity programs. I remember being at Harvard, that was the last year we had a university-funded Black graduation, right? So you have universities and schools across the country rolling back on equity investments. And here in Los Angeles, we're actually not only investing, but we're expanding. And that's because of the work that UTLA has done in solidarity with our students, in solidarity with our parents. We also have SAU Local 99, which has also been part of that. It was, wonderful seeing, a number of folks at the 5-year BSAP celebration in February at the Crenshaw Mall.
And when you talk about SEIU, we're 99, we're talking about what I said yesterday, the lunch lady, which is the cafeteria workers. We're talking about janitors, bus drivers. And those folks are paid way even less than teachers.
Right. And so, the folks who really are like the backbone of our school system, where our schools will not be clean. Our kids, many of our kids, including myself, wouldn't have been able to go to school. Kids who mirror our school sites is one of the main, if not the main, especially for our unhoused students, source of food for our babies, right? These are the workers, right, who keep that system going. And, when it's tough for educators, right, it's really tough for our education workers. And so, we're all workers, right? But it's really tough for, our service, line workers. And I think that's also, again, why, in 2023, UTLA went on strike in solidarity with SAU Local 99 because we recognize that their issues, right, are also our issues. We are in, technically different unions, right, but to me, we're all, part of one, labor movement. We're all colleagues. I greet, Miss Jones in the morning every day, to get to school, and that's like one of the highlights of my day. And Miss Jones, she keeps, sorry, I didn't ask for her permission to mention her, but she keeps our schools safe, and she, a lot of our kids, they love Miss Jones, and I think in many of our school sites we have a Miss Jones who is there, who's about our kids, and we want her to keep her job. We want all of our workers to be able to keep their job and to live right in dignity. So it's really about dignity, and it's about justice, and it's about investing in a school system that is moral and equitable for all.
We will continue this conversation after news, traffic, and sports. Bryant Odega is here. I'm Dominique DePrima for KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. The mother of black baby girl Kaori Patterson Moore, killed in Brooklyn, New York while sitting in her stroller, spoke out at a recent prayer vigil saying parents must do better.
They don't know. They don't have the morals. They don't have the principles. Some of them don't have that grandmother that was outside telling them, you can't do this.
2 men, including the alleged shooter, black 21-year-old Amori Green, are charged with murder. NASA's Artemis 2 mission is winding down, with 4 astronauts preparing to return to Earth. They're set to splash down in the Pacific off San Diego at 8:07 p.m. Eastern, where Navy and medical teams await the Orion capsule. And Pope Leo XIV is planning a major trip to Africa later this month, his first big visit of the year. The Vatican says the focus will be peace, poverty, and strengthening faith ties. Church officials say the goal is to draw more global attention to Africa's growing Catholic population. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Are you looking for your next European adventure? Think Poland. From its historic cities to all of the UNESCO landmarks and its incredible food. Modern, safe, welcoming. Get inspired at Poland.travel.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Lakers legend Michael Cooper is the new men's basketball coach at Cal State LA. The NBA Hall of Famer was introduced Thursday morning at a press conference inside University Gym, the school's basketball arena. Cooper replaced Jim Saya, who retired after 10 seasons. Cooper was promoted to head coach after serving as an assistant the past 3 years at Cal State LA. Cooper played all 12 of his NBA seasons with the Lakers and helped them win 5 championships. The UCLA women's basketball program will receive $1.4 million in NCAA revenue distribution from the women's basketball tournament. The $1.4 million includes a $75,000 bonus for winning the national championship. Most of the tournament income is generated by gate revenues and the 8-year, $920 million broadcast deal the women's tournament has with ESPN. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Can we just talk? You've heard me say it before, how we talk to one another matters. Earlier this year, we launched our first cohort, and I'm grateful to those who leaned in early and helped to shape the work. Now I'm inviting you to join me for a new live seminar, The Practice of Dialogue, Becoming a More Effective Communicator. This is a small group experience designed to help you strengthen how you communicate in your work, your relationships, and your everyday life. Space is limited to keep the experience personal and interactive. So if you're ready to take your communication to the next level, now is the time to focus on the skills that make conversations meaningful. The new 4-week cohort begins Monday, May 4th, and there's a nice discount for early bird registrants. Visit TavishTalks.com to learn more and reserve your place today. That's TavishTalks.com, because better conversations don't just happen, we practice them.
I need a little range, step to the range, come on, meet me at the
Introducing the new Chick-fil-A Jalapeno Ranch Club Sandwich. With that juicy Chick-fil-A chicken on a buttermilk ranch bun, jalapeno ranch sauce, and pickled jalapenos, it's a little ranch with a lot of kick. The new Chick-fil-A Jalapeno Ranch Club with original spicy or grilled filet. Available for a limited time only. Order ahead on the Chick-fil-A app.
Roger and Tracy saved over $18,400. Cynthia was recovering from a family tragedy and saved over $10,300. If you are drowning in debt, then call Debt Blue. Debt Blue is a professional debt negotiation firm with over 20 years of experience helping people pay back a fraction of what they owe. Learn how to cut your debt up to half or maybe more. Be debt-free in 24 to 48 months, even with bad credit. With an A+ rating from the BBB, you can rest easy knowing Debt Blue is going to deliver guaranteed debt reduction. Debt Blue offers a success guarantee. You pay nothing unless your debt is reduced or completely resolved. That's right, you save money or it's free. Call now for significant debt relief and a free consultation. 800-200-8879. That's 800-200-8879. You don't have to declare bankruptcy. This program works if you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in debt. Call for your free consultation today. 800-200-8879. That's 800-200-8879.
The Joint will be jumping. Ebony Repertory Theater, in association with Fig Street Films, brings you one of the most beloved musicals of all time. Tony Award winner, Ain't Misbehavin'. The soulful, swinging celebration of the music of Fats Waller. From the rollicking to the romantic, this show is pure magic, full of the songs that defined an era and the voices that'll make you forget everything else for a night. Foot-stomping, heart-stirring, unforgettable. Don't miss Ain't Misbehavin' at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center, starring Lettucey, directed by Ren T. Brown. This is the night out you've been waiting for. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Grab yours now at ebonyrep.org or call the box office today at 323-964-9766. Ebony Repertory Theater, bringing the culture, keeping the legacy alive.
Ain't Misbehavin' runs May 21st through June 8th at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Get your tickets now.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh, man, if only you could hear the conversation during news, traffic, and sports. Bryant Odega is here. I'm really glad you're here because I think it's important for us to understand if you're new to the city, if you weren't here in 2023 or prior times when UTLA has gone out on strike, you don't know this is going to affect everybody and everything, even if you don't have a kid. And it seems like we're at a bit of a crossroads. You said Cecily Meyer-Cruz, who is just a very impressive leader, who's the head of UTLA, says you're fighting for the future of public education. That means you guys are putting a lot on it. We're talking United Teachers of LA, Local 99, and Associated Administrators. None of those three unions have a contract right now. And the administration, the superintendent's office, has said that if two out of those three go out on strike, the schools will be closed on Tuesday. In other strikes, there's been times when the schools stayed open with whatever provisional situation they had, although a lot of students and parents did not cross those picket lines anyway. But this would be different in that the campuses would be shut down.
Right.
So what are some of the core issues here? Like, aside from the money, we talked about the money. What else are we looking at that teachers are asking for, that if you know what Local 99, what the administrators are asking for? I mean, this is 70,000 out of the 83,000 employees in the LAUSD are covered. So it's hardly anybody that wouldn't actually be in a striking union as of Tuesday.
Yeah, so I think overall, right, it's about choosing fair pay over poverty, right?
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking about our SIU Local 99 members, where we have a large number of folks who, I think in 2023, I think the battle was just to get at the federal poverty level, right?
For Local 99.
Yes, just to
for counselors, for
our
cafeteria workers,
sanitation, bus drivers, etc. Like just a baseline, to keep it going, right? And with the rise of cost, from housing to groceries, and now with gas prices, with this president's war, right, that no one asked for in Iran, gas is also another item that's hurting our pockets, and especially so far 99 members. And so that's really what it's about. Overall, it's about choosing fair pay over poverty. We live in a society. I can't remember if it was Dr. King or someone else that mentioned it, or Bernie Sanders. But we have socialism for the rich, right, and rugged capitalism for the poor, right. The workers have to struggle and make a lot out of a little that we're given, and that what we're given, these are choices, right. We can choose to actually raise, right, the pay that the folks who care for our kids make, right. And if we are a just society that believes that we should not have schools that aren't being sanitized, if we believe that we should not have a school system where it does matter, right, your zip code and your dollars, how much you make, whether you're able to actually have your kid go to school, right, because you don't need to rely on the school bus, right, that we then invest in those programs, right. This is overall about justice. It's about equity, and it's about fairness. Our kids deserve better.
This is the first time I think that the principals are actually going out on the strike. In 2019, the principals crossed the picket lines when there was a strike. I don't think that happened in 2023, but this is the first time that I've seen in my lifetime where the principals are also walking out. So it's not just that they're in solidarity, they're also bargaining.
Right.
Is there any chance? I mean, I was happy to see that, it sounded like there was at least they were heading back to the bargaining table yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
You said we probably would maybe know Saturday. I'm assuming
there's another meeting on
if
Saturday.
They're bargaining, that they're going to bargain on Monday, since Tuesday's the deadline.
Right.
Do you have a sense that there's any chance at all that because the administrators, I mean, to put a finer point on it, are saying, well, not the administrators, the district itself is saying, we have this 4 point whatever billion, but we're also overspending every month, so that will be gone. That surplus is going to disappear, and we really can't afford it. Sounds like they're digging in their heels. So do you think there's any chance we'd get a deal before Tuesday?
Yeah, so just to respond to that point real quick, the district often says that, we're not going to have money if we agree to the demands of the workers. And if you look at, since the early 2000s, right, we've actually gotten a surplus. I believe, I wish I remember off the top of my head what the reserve was in 2023, but I'll tell you that the current, reserve is even higher. Right now we're at $5.03 billion. And so, and we also, that doesn't even include money from the state, because we also, receive money from the state as well. And it's a separate conversation around Gavin Newsom withholding funds from Prop 98, which is a problem because that's constitutionally mandated funding for our schools. But if we don't have any real movements on Saturday, or there's no agreement announced on Monday, then April 14th, to quote Playboy Giz, we're going to be outside.
In mass. Let's go to Mike calling us from LA. Good morning, Mike.
Yeah, how you doing, Dominique?
I'm blessed. How are you?
All right, I'm blessed too. I'm out walking. But, I'm listening, and I keep hearing you say that the teachers are making more than the parents at the students and stuff. But, a teacher has to get a credential. It takes like 4 years to get that in most cases.
Mm-hmm.
LAPD comes in, they making $100,000 a year coming out of high school without credentials.
Not to mention ICE.
Teachers,
right.
Yeah, and the teachers it's a well-known fact that teachers are underpaid. I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't even know why we're having this conversation.
Well, we're having the conversation because there's probably going to be a strike on Tuesday. That's why we're having the conversation.
Well, we shouldn't even have to have a strike. They should just automatically go and give them a raise because they know what it takes out here. You got to have $42 an hour just to get a $2,600 a month apartment now. And these teachers, it seems like society would rather build a jail than to build a school to teach kids some kind of trade or something that when they come out of school they have a job. And when you have a job, you don't have no time to be getting in trouble. You're working on that job making money. So, I'm just kind of at a loss. To society is just, I don't know, man.
Well, you know
Help me
what,
with this.
Mike? I mean, I'm going to let Bryant help you because he's forever an optimist, but I am too. And I think I understand what you're saying. I think we have to still look at the nuances of what is happening. And also, I think we have to focus on some of our victories because we're getting so many defeats right now that it's easy to just throw up our hands. But yet, Mike, you're out walking. Bravo for you. You're out walking, so you clearly haven't just given up. Bryant, what do you want to say to Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Mike, for that. I think so not just optimism, but also hope. I think we are, as you mentioned, there's a lot going on in this country, right? We are in a crisis. And to me, what gives me hope is not just the labor movements, but also the movements, the social justice movement in general. Strike isn't just, to quote LAUSD, a quote-unquote work stoppage, right? This is an act of activism, right? There's an organizing tactic to, not just about withholding our labor, but also, building power, not just amongst workers, but also with our community, community that's seeing us outside, fighting for our kids. Like, it's not just about wages and benefits, but also we're fighting to ensure that our kids have, high quality learning conditions, our working conditions, our students' learning outcomes. And so, if the district doesn't respect that or doesn't, believe that, then we're going to have to force them to, on April 14, because in 2023, we got a raise. The fact finding, I can't remember what they offered, but I know that after the strike, we got even higher than those recommendations.
Well, one thing that may cheer you up, Mike, it cheers me up, is the fact that we're seeing a solidarity that we haven't seen before, where you do have the cafeteria workers and, the janitors and
administrators, the principals.
So you've got three separate unions that in the past have not always stood together, now standing together. And this is highly unusual, and I would imagine highly effective. I don't know how the district can tap dance around this when they cannot reopen the schools if even two out of these three bargaining units goes out. And from what I'm hearing from you and what I'm reading, Bryant, if two are out, all three are out.
Yeah.
No one is going to say, oh, well, we got our deal, so we're going to go to work
on
Tuesday. So in other words, the schools will be closed on Tuesday if a deal isn't reached in the next couple days.
Yeah, if we don't get it, right, we're going to have to shut it down.
Okay, he's about to start picketing in the studio, Mike. He said, if we don't get it, shut it down. Mike, did you want to land?
Yeah, let's go on and shut it down. Cause, don't tell me they don't have no money now.
Okay,
the money's out there. If you can rebuild Altadena and Palisades, we got money.
Amen.
So,
Well, we don't know how good of a job they're doing rebuilding Altadena and Palisades, but your point is taken.
Well,
your point is taken, Mike.
The money's not a problem. We give the police a raise every year. We got money somewhere, so.
Well, yeah, and it is true. I mean, the district does admit that they have almost $5 billion in their reserve. They're just saying they need it because they're overspending. And I think Bryant made a point earlier on. Then stop overspending,
right?
And look, figure out where your priorities are. I don't, not an expert on this, but I see the same scenario with the college system where we are paying all this money for consultants and more and more like top heavy kind of so-called prestigious administrative positions. and expecting the students to pay for that.
Right. Increasing
Instead
tuition.
of, saying, okay, well, let's put our money where we see it most effective, which is with teachers,
Right.
in classrooms, in, student support services.
Right. Like like I'm not in the college system, but I remember as a student and also from my own sister and other my former students, like the struggle to find, a space, right, to take their required classes because there's not enough professors teaching those classes because we're not hiring enough. And so, like, it really, again, like, it hurts our students when we don't invest in our education system. And we are in a crisis when it comes to the future of public education. And that's why I'm proud, of the work that the California Federation of Association have been doing around organizing, but also, education union workers across the board. We have to fight.
I guess you're going to have to come back because we said we were going to talk about the governor's race, the mayor's race, all of this stuff we got going, the controller's race, all the stuff we got going on in this city. But we're probably not going to have time. But maybe we'll get at least a sneak peek when we come forward. Bryant Odega is here. I'm Dominique DePrima. And you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hello, this is Dr. Rosa Milligan calling authors and business owners to register now for Black Writers on Tour plus Business plus AI Expo, Saturday, April 25th, 10 to 4 p.m. at the Carson Event Center.
Learn how to write, publish, and sell your book. Business owners are looking for you now. Let them know where you're at. Call 323-750-3592. Free admission and parking. You heard right, free. Powerful seminar lineup. Go to blackwritersontour.com and register today. 323-750-3592.
Literacy is everybody's business. Black Writers on Tour at the Carson Event Center, Saturday, April 25th, 10 to 4. See you there, 323-750-3592. Visit blackwritersontour.com. Don't you miss it.
All right, folks, as we approach Liberty Island, you'll see the iconic Statue of Liberty, standing tall at over 300 feet. The torch in her hand symbolizes a beacon of hope that's held up by her very wavy arm.
If you have geographic atrophy, or GA, subtle changes in vision could mean it's progressing toward irreversible vision loss. Izervay, or avacincaptad pegol, is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. It's proven to slow GA progression and could preserve your remaining vision for longer so you can keep seeing the world around you. Don't take Izervay if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't wait for your vision changes to progress. Ask your retina specialist about Izervay today. To learn more, call 1-855-IZERVAY or go to izervay.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Michael's Daughter Foundation is dedicated to inspiring youth and resilience through storytelling, arts, filmmaking, and enrichment programs for youth and families in under-resourced communities and system-impacted individuals. The Michael's Daughter Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit providing free and low-cost arts programs to youth and families from under-resourced communities, both system-impacted youth and those affected by the incarceration of a loved one. 1 in 43 children in America have a parent incarcerated. 70% of those children are expected to end up in prison. Through filmmaking, animation, theater, and writing, they help young people express themselves, build confidence, and imagine new possibilities. Beyond the arts, they offer financial literacy workshops, emergency support, and scholarships. Because thriving takes more than talent, it takes access. To learn more about the impact of Michael Daughters Foundation and how you can be a part of the movement, please visit their website, michaelsdaughterfoundation.com. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
Okay, Bryant Odega is here. Speed round, speed round, speed round. What can we do if we want to support teachers, and how should we be prepared as parents and kids for Tuesday, should a strike occur?
Yeah, so should a strike occur, I encourage everybody, parents, students, community members to reach out to their neighborhood school sites and ask for whoever the chapter chair is and ask them what time, if the strike does happen, what time will they be out? And so you can join them at the picket line. Or if you don't have the capability because of work or because of other circumstances, just when you're driving past, doing the honk, showing that love. I think those are like the major ways, going, calling. I think two biggest ways, right? One is join the picket line, so call your school sites and see when they're going to be outside. And then also, call your school board member. We have 7, Shalette, Tony Ortiz Franklin, Carla Griego, Dr. Rocio Rivas, Nick Melvoin, Scott Schmerelson, and I can't remember if I'm missing someone. But there's 7. And, to call them and say, to back the contract, campaign. To call, the head administrator, we have an acting superintendent, I can't remember his name, but, calling their office, demanding them to, agree to the demands of the workers. So I think those are the 2 biggest things you can do. And also, social media, posting, that public support is also really important. We got to apply public pressure at all the different points, whether it's at the picket line, whether it's online, and also when you're, through those calls. Maybe during your lunch break, you can call your school board member and the superintendent.
Andres Chait?
Yes, Andres Chait.
And then what should we, as parents, I know that the district is talking about having some hubs where folks can drop off kids if they don't have any babysitting. We'll see if that actually happens. And they're talking about continuing to provide food service, not service, but to provide meals similar to what happened in COVID. You're a teacher, though. You're in the classroom with kids. Mm-hmm. What would you tell parents to how to get through this? Because to your point, it could go on. We don't know how long. Till a deal is done.
Yeah, I think to Reclaim Our Schools is one of the organizations that's been leading a lot of our parents, outreach and organizing. And I encourage parents to reach out to Reclaim Our Schools LA because we are, organizing together as a coalition to support, our students, our parents, and our workers as well. And so I would, direct, parents to Reclaim Our Schools. Because, we're all in this, together, right? LA is a union town. And, if the district or if, the bosses, right, don't, meet us where we're at, right, then we have to, quote unquote, right, shut it down, right? But that also means, business as usual. The district wants to continue business as usual by offering opportunities for folks to potentially cross the picket line. And I would encourage folks to, figure out, to reach out to Reclaim Our School LA, and to, your chapter chairs, to figure out alternatives to whatever it is the school is providing. Like the school, district, wants to pressure members to still provide work during, potential strike, and that is optional. Members don't have to do that.
No, of course not. No, of course they don't.
Nor do students.
But I do think that it's important since many children rely on LAUSD for nutrition, right, that those meals remain available like they did during COVID.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that people have to work shouldn't mean that people have to work when they're on strike.
Yeah.
Okay, so we only left ourselves 2 minutes, Bryant Odega. I don't know. What do you want to say about? We'll go governor because the mayor doesn't directly control the schools, right?
Right. So I'd say governor. I recommend folks looking out and voting for Tom Steyer. I know that he is a billionaire, and even as someone who likes Jay-Z and Beyonce's music, I think every billionaire is an abomination, right? That mass hoarding of wealth in such high economic inequality. At the same time, Tom Steyer is the most committed to many of the issues that impact working families, whether it's supporting single-parent health care. He's a billionaire who actually supports the billionaire's tax, unlike, many of the other folks who's running that race. And he also supports, climate justice reforms like making polluters pay for, the oil spills, for the climate catastrophe that they have created for us. And so Tom Steyer recommendation.
That's where you're going. Okay.
Yeah.
The knock on
And
him
CFT has endorsed
is
him.
the endorsement in the investment in the prisons, the private prison.
Right. So none of the candidates, unfortunately, are none of them are perfect, right? But overall, Tom Steyer, he has made moves to, divest from those types of, markets, for prisons and things like that. And he has been committed to, again, fighting for the issues that, fighting for the progressive issues that we care about, unlike many of his opponents who are funded by, private prisons, Republican donors, billionaires, etc. And their platform doesn't, they aren't committed to any type of, they're running to the right of Gavin Newsom, who hasn't been, the greatest governor on some issues.
Right, he's definitely moved right himself.
Right, absolutely.
And so you're going with Tom Steyer, and you said who has endorsed him?
Yes, so the California Federation of Teachers
CFT.
have endorsed him. So he is the teacher's choice when it comes to, the CFT membership, which UTLA is a dually affiliated with CFT and CTA, the California Teachers Association. He's also backed by the school employees union as well. And so, he has a couple education unions that's backing him.
Okay.
That's who I recommend.
Well, Bryant, you're going to have to come back because we're going to have to go a little deeper into some of these local races. But thank you so much for being here today. And you can find him at Bryant Odega on social media. Bryant Odega. Always great to talk with you.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you for having me.
News, traffic, and sports. Then it's time for reparations. It's always time for reparations. It's a Friedman Friday on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. The mother of black baby girl Kaori Patterson Moore, killed in Brooklyn, New York while sitting in her stroller, spoke out at a recent prayer vigil saying parents must do better.
They don't know. They don't have the morals. They don't have the principles. Some of them don't have that grandmother that was outside telling them, you can't do this.
2 men, including the alleged shooter, black 21-year-old Amori Green, are charged with murder. NASA's Artemis II mission is winding down with 4 astronauts preparing to return to Earth. They're set to splash down in the Pacific off San Diego at 8:07 p.m. Eastern, where Navy and medical teams await the Orion capsule. And Pope Leo XIV is planning a major trip to Africa later this month, his first big visit of the year. The Vatican says the focus will be peace, poverty, and strengthening faith ties. Church officials say the goal is to draw more global attention to Africa's growing Catholic population. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Are you looking for your next European adventure? Think Poland. From its historic cities to all of the UNESCO landmarks and its incredible food. Modern, safe, welcoming. Get inspired at Poland.travel.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers finally got a win without Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves. They were in San Francisco Thursday night. They beat Golden State 119-103. The Lakers were 0-3 without Doncic and Reeves. LeBron stepped up with a strong performance, 26 points, 11 assists, and 8 rebounds. DeAndre Ayton also stepped up with 21 points. Ayton made 9 of 11 shots. The Lakers are back in town tonight to play Phoenix. Very important game for the Clippers tonight in Portland. The Clippers need a win to hold on to the 8th spot in the play-in round. They have a 1-game lead over Portland. If the Clippers lose, they fall into the 9th spot with 1 game remaining in the regular season. Teams in the 9th and 10th spot in the play-in round have to win 2 games to make the playoffs. The Dodgers are back in town after a 5-1 road trip. They start a 6-game homestand tonight against Texas. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580, your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive.
When When the story gets twisted, who's going to tell the truth? When they cut the microphones, who's still talking? When history gets rewritten, who remembers what really happened? We do. KBLA Talk 1580. Black media isn't just important right now, it's essential. Because when mainstream outlets move on, we stay. When the headlines ignore our communities, we don't. When decisions are being made that affect black lives in our schools, our neighborhoods, our economy, KBLA is in the room. This is more than radio. This is a lifeline, a record, a rallying cry. Black stories, black voices, black power.
The heat is on.
On the air and in the culture. KBLA Talk 1580. Stay connected. Stay informed. Stay loud.
Stand up!